Hi guys, how are you? I hope you're well. I am well myself. My name is Nuta, and in this channel of the making of a chef, there are some things we need to know about the front of the house. When you think about cooking in a home, you have both the kitchen and the dining area where you will serve your guests. And it always helps, even if you're a person who loves cooking, to know how to set up your food and get the most satisfaction out of how that food will be consumed and how your guests, how you will communicate to your guests and how much they will love your service, okay? So every home has a way, spirit to it. There's a communication of who we are, what we like to do, especially when we have guests. In this home, I think what we communicate most is that we love welcoming the guests and also feeding them. I come from a people I come from the Agikuyu and the Ameru, who, if nothing else, will feed you, okay? And the way we serve in Africa, actually looking at the setup I've done today, I couldn't help thinking, this looks English, but actually it's the way we would serve in Africa, okay? So we will serve you food. We will make sure there is soup, some stew, right? And a main meal that will be huge. But also at the same time, you will get tea. You will not leave that, dining area without being served tea, okay? Now we're just making it more refined, but we are a people who have fed our visitors over a long period of time. So today I have set up in this manner. Okay guys, so if you come to a table and it is served like this, your host is telling you two things. This will be majorly a dinner setup where you get a soup, a salad, and a main course. And finding your plates on the table like this means they will be bringing the food to the table. Either they will serve you while you sit, or they will have it as the centerpiece on the table. So your host could be bringing some soup in a big bowl that everybody gets to serve themselves. So if they're communicating that, then they will set the cutlery out just like that, okay? There will also be a different communication of dessert setting if they're going to serve dessert, but that is not always the case. They may decide in this case to serve you coffee or tea, and given this big mug, it shows that will be enough, and that is common in an African home setting where we don't serve dessert much unless your host wants to, okay? But if there's dessert, there'll be something like a coffee to go with. But looking at this dining set, this huge mug suggests that you will have a big beverage, okay? Now given the glasses we have here, it's very likely, especially in African homes, we don't serve wine much unless your host, is into that kind of thing. So perhaps this could be a glass of water, a glass of, maybe a non-alcoholic white wine or cider, and tea. There will be tea, okay? So we are keeping it simple like that, okay? This set of glasses or the cups or the beverage setting should be right above your cutlery. So I'm going to place cutlery for a dinner setting, okay? I'm going to set a knife, and the knife has the curved side will always face the plate. Your cutlery should be polished and shining, should always face the plate, okay? Ready for service, okay? And with that knife should come a dining fork, okay? And with home style eating, this is very common. You don't have to serve with two forks when you're serving in a home. It could be as simple as this with an addition of a teaspoon. Okay, so just like that, sometimes it could be a soup spoon. And your teaspoon. If it's a teaspoon, just for your tea, it will be on that side. If this is intended for dessert, it would be up here, okay? But for this setup, I will set up that teaspoon over there and just provide another for dessert over here, okay? And then we will have a different fork for salad. This is a salad fork. It's usually smaller than the dining fork, and sometimes it has sharp edges and will have a chip on it, okay? Or just a design to suggest that it's not a dinner fork. And it should come next to the dinner fork, and it should be aligned, okay? At the very least, make sure that all your cutlery is aligned, and it should be a thumb width away from the table, from the edge of the table, to allow the guest to sit comfortably without disturbing the arrangement, okay? Now, my napkin is here, but it doesn't always have to be. It can be somewhere else, perhaps on the plate like this. But wherever it is, it's up to the guests to take it once they are seated for dinner, to take it and just use it on their lap, okay? That is for their use. So whether it's on the plates or on the side, you know, it's up to them. You know, this is a communication. There's a napkin provided for you, so use it, okay? So this is a dinner setting, and I'm going to break down until we have a breakfast setting, okay? So the next thing we are going to do is set up for a lunch, okay? One thing I forgot to mention is that there's always going to be, with dinner, the bread plate, okay? Unless you have agreed with your host not to serve bread, especially because of dietary preferences that people have nowadays, okay? So a complete dinner setting should be like that, with a butter knife that is usually very tiny and curved. So you'll have a knife over there, a bread knife over there, okay? So we are going to break down for lunch. So two things you will notice. I will leave the bread plate over there. I will leave the dinner and salad fork. I will take out my wine glass and just serve water, and then I will take out my mug of tea. Now I'm going to set up for breakfast. I'm going to get rid of my bread plate. Going to leave there a teaspoon, take away my dessert spoon and my salad fork. So with this setting is also a communication that whatever you take is going on one plate, and that could be bread, bacon, whatever you take perhaps from the buffet setting of whatever is brought to the table, and perhaps you'll have some juice or water and coffee or teacup, okay? You'll have your spoon for the tea, and you'll have your fork and knife for eating your breakfast, okay? All in one plate. So now that we've covered that in the most basic way, that is basic because there's ways to elevate your dining service where you could also include placement cards or a menu on the table and all of that. For most people, especially when serving at home, this is enough, okay? This is enough. I know in an African home, we usually just set our food on the table, grab a glass of water or such a thing, and just go, and then later we'll come for tea or something like that. This kind of setting would have to be when you're serving, formally, even to your family. Perhaps it's a birthday or a special occasion. You want to serve your family in a classy manner where they feel special. Of course, this cannot be done every night. If you do that every night, it's a stretch. And, too much for the host can be also very expensive. And also, it gets boring. It gets to be too regular, right? I don't know if you've ever seen on Desperate Housewives, there was a lady called Brie, and everything was so formal that the family just couldn't take it. It was too much, okay? Now, it's all to avoid that. If you're a host that does that every time, that's commendable. It also sets up your family for great success out there when they have to have business meetings and even interviews over, lunch or dinner. You want them to know what to do and to know what forks to use when, how to just carry themselves, or handle themselves during dinner. Now, when serving your guests as the host here, it's okay to communicate to them how you want that food to be eaten. Perhaps when you have all that cutlery set out, you want to communicate to them. You want them to appreciate the effort you've gone through to make the food and also make a whole experience for them, okay? So if, say you have this kind of setting and you want your guests to start with the soup, now this is rare because we always use the cutlery from the outside going in, and from the outside here I have the teaspoon, okay? So it's okay to communicate that I want you to use the soup spoon for the soup is what we're starting with first. It's okay to make announcements, yeah? Or sometimes if you know maybe that you don't want to talk about or make announcements at the dinner, it's okay to have the spoon in the cup just to show you have your individual spoon for stirring, okay? And so if you have a setting like this and you're now serving the soup, it's okay to, communicate to the guests that now you can use the soup spoon. And we should do this with real food, but for today, so this is the spoon we'll be using, and just, eating, especially if you're training your family, eat the soup with the spoon going out, okay? Going out like that, or you can just wipe the back of the spoon on the bowl and have your meal, okay? It's also okay to communicate about the napkin setting. Let everyone know there's your napkin for use. There's many times I've served a dinner and my family, they want to make the napkins dirty, so they just set them aside and use the paper towels. Your family will do that if they're trying to spare you, okay? But it's good for them to know, and for your guests to know that you want them to use the napkins so that they won't be looking for paper towels, maybe getting up and going to the kitchen looking for paper towels where you have a storm brewing there because you've been cooking for hours and you didn't have a chance to, move things around or clean up. You don't want your guests also to feel bothered that they have to fetch things for themselves because you're making this a very formal dinner. So it's okay to communicate. You can have your napkin on your lap and just use it to wipe your fingers or your mouth whenever you're eating, so you don't have to go looking for paper towels, okay? Another thing you can discourage on the table is having the napkins on the neck like that. That's not allowed. It covers up the attire, the beautiful attire they wore to your dinner. You don't want that. It's also not etiquette, right? So having the napkin here is not allowed unless it's a baby that you're feeding. Then you can have the napkin on their neck, okay? So you can put it just like this, like we covered on the other video. You can fold your napkin in half and just have it on your lap like that, and you'll just be wiping discreetly, whether it's your fingers that you touch something you are eating or you are wiping your mouth. That's perfectly okay. All right, so there's that way or the triangular way. The triangle away where you want it to face away from you so that you can just pull it, wipe on the inside so that it's not messy. when you finally put it on the table. Okay, and I should have mentioned the first thing is that that's your napkin, this is your cutlery, you own these things at this point, you can use them, and the most important thing, eat freely, you know, and enjoy the meal. That is the objective of the guest, of the host, unless they called you or they invited you purposely for that training. Okay, then you're allowed to go through the training, you're allowed to, you know, just take your time to learn things. Okay, so with your napkin there, you've been served the soup, and when it's taken away, you have this cutlery. Okay, now when eating a salad, you can eat just with the fork. Okay, you don't have to use the knife, and in most cases I would say it's unwise to use the knife, because when it's dirty and you're waiting for the dinner course, you may not know where to put it. While it's okay to have it on the same plate, there are instances where your host will want to take away the plate, or they're serving from a different section and bringing it there. But in this case, we are speaking about utensils we already have on the table. Okay, so you don't use when you're eating a salad, you don't use the knife for cutting your salad, or you know, you don't use the knife for eating the salad. You can use the fork, and it can stay on the right hand the whole time that you're eating your salad. But if there is a separate knife for eating your salad, or if you do want to use your dining knife to just cut whatever, you know, it shouldn't be served large. The salad should be easy to handle. But if it's large, or you're feeling shy and you want just small bits, then you can use your dining knife with the salad fork just to guide it. Okay, to guide it, to cut it, to help you organize, especially if it's large leaves. You want to be able to organize your food and return it where you don't dirty the tablecloth. Okay, and you can just eat your salad with the salad fork, and when you're done, you just leave it on the table at that angle of 12 to 6, 11 to 5, or 10 to 4, okay, to communicate that you're done with that course. Now when you're done with that course, then comes the dinner. Okay, and in the meantime, you could be sipping your water or your wine. You can use whatever it is that you know, you're eating. And sometimes a wine doesn't get served until you're eating the main course, and in that case, the food you're eating dictates the kind of wine you will have. If it's, say, red wine with some beef, you know, with some beef, steak, or whatever kind of beef meal you've been served, then you can have with the wine that you're taking. Or if it's something like fish, because there could be so many courses, and they will be served in the many places that you have. There could be a fish course, and so you will have that with a white wine. Okay, but in this case, we have just the water, and you are anticipating having some tea. Okay, so then when you're having dinner, this could be the last utensils that you use. And then you just, there are two ways, common ways. There's guests who will use the American style, where you cut your food, set the knife aside, and use the dinner fork to eat the food that you just placed on your fork. I'm sorry. I'm having to summon words. And there's a European way where you keep your knife and your fork on your hand, eating the whole time, you know, eating small bits of food, because you still want to make conversations with the other guests next to you. So it's very common that you'll find them cutting the meal, you know, and piling on the rice or the mashed potatoes, including the vegetables, whatever it is they're eating in small bits, having the knife on the right hand and eating with the left hand, like this, or just helping yourself with a knife, you pile on the food on the fork and just consume it that way. Okay, so we will do a more practical lesson when I have food on my plate, but for now that is the setting. Okay, so when all of this is done and the cutlery is removed, your host may be bringing the dessert on a different plate, and let's actually do that practically. I just happen to have dessert but not food. So if you served dessert, whether you went to pick it from the buffet table or it's brought to you, and you will notice that your host will be serving you from a particular side. They may be carrying multiple plates and may be serving from the right or the left, and you will notice once they serve you, say like this, I served from the right, then the next guest, they will have to pass me before they go to the next guest and serve them still from the guest's right hand. Okay, or you could see them doing that from the left, depending on how the area is set up, because they don't want to hit you or just mix everything. They don't want to serve you from the right and serve this other one from the left and get everyone confused. Okay, so when you serve dessert and the cutlery is up here, for some people they will expect the guests to set it up for themselves, so it looks something like this. So for some hosts, they will set up the cutlery before they even bring the dessert on the table. So you will notice that the cutlery that was sitting here will be moved for you by the host from a certain angle. They will have it ready, or they could do that even before they set down the dessert. Sometimes they will have the dessert on a tray, so it will be easy for them to just organize your space before they set the plate. So if they're doing that, let them. Do not interfere, do not help them pick, because accidents could happen. Now, when you serve dessert, two things could happen. You either be served with a spoon and a fork, or with a fork and knife. Okay, now when that happens, depending on the texture of the dessert, you could just use it to cut, just like with dinner. Use it to cut and use the knife to add any addition or anything that's going astray, and just have that. See that? It should never be so big. Okay, so it should be small enough for you to eat nicely. That is one way to eat with fork and knife, or depending on how you feel about the texture of the cake or the dessert that you serve. Sometimes you're served just berries and fruit. You can just use the fork to both cut and eat. Always remember to cut and eat small portions so that you can keep talking throughout the dinner with the other visitors. You don't want to just focus on your food and forget that dinner is about sharing your time together and mingling, getting to know each other and all of that. Yeah, so small portions will do. Another thing, notice the placements of my hands. You should not have your elbows on the table, no matter how interesting the conversation is. That means you're not eating, and that could delay the next course that the host wants to bring. when you take your focus off, the food and also off the other guests and just focus on one, it's actually rude. Yeah, so place your hands in a way that it's easy for you to maneuver while eating, and also you're not bearing the next person or barring them from speaking to you, because as much as you could be speaking to the person closest to you, you still want the others to feel included. You want to have this open kind of stance where everybody can speak to you. Now, there are things that the host will always leave at the table. This could be water, salt and pepper. I have them on that side. Yeah, and this is quite interesting, and this should be done throughout the meal. I should have said this first. Whenever you want to have the salt, to add salt and pepper to your food, you can ask for the next guest to pass it to you. It doesn't always have to be the host. The next guest is passing, you should expect them to hand you both the salt and the pepper, even when you've just asked for the salt alone. So and you'll find this kind of setup where the setup is like this, so that the guests can hold both. If it's just one thing, they are supposed to give it to you, to give you both the salt and the pepper together. Okay, you can also ask for more water if it's placed on the table, and the next guest should be able to hand it to you. You're not supposed to get up and reach for the farthest thing. Even if it is food, it will be passed around. That is what you should expect. If it's not passed around, do communicate and ask, could you hand me, or could you pass the mashed potatoes? When they're done, of course, they will give it to you. Now, that kind of passing of stuff that you're sharing at the table should not be done from across the table. So if say you want something from that guest adjacent to you, or on the extreme end, or from the host who usually sits at the head of the table, it could be that side or this side, then you can ask for it to be passed. They will pass on to the next guest. Expect that. Yeah, they will pass it on to the next guest that way until it reaches you, even if it is a lot of guests. So you just pass to the next person. There shouldn't be too much reaching, just to avoid a lot of accidents that can happen at the table. Also, while you're eating, it's okay to have some food remain. It shows satisfaction. You're communicating to the host that you're very satisfied and happy with the meal. The other thing is handling the napkin. You're not restricted from rising from the table. If you want to use the bathroom, or maybe you particularly want to wash your hands again, whatever it is, it's your business that you want to do. You should just have the napkin, take the napkin off your laps and place it, on the table close to your setup. Okay, you can also just rise and leave it on the seat and push your seat back. You don't have to. Sometimes your host will rise with you to ensure that you're comfortable, and when you come back, you set up your napkin the same way. Now, it's also possible that you want to pick a call. It is rude. It is so rude to have to get up from a dining table, whether it's with family or with strangers, to go and answer, a call on your phone. So you should actually have your phone turned off so it doesn't disturb the other guests. It's only polite, because when you sit down for a meal with other people, you want to, even with yourself, it's important that you eat, give attention to the meal, eat with satisfaction and gratitude, and just make sure that you don't make everyone else uncomfortable. When you're done eating, when you're done with dinner, and perhaps your host is asking you to a different section of the house where you'll have, you'll be served maybe some small bitings, or just watch a movie or something, then what to do? Just take your napkin, rumple it up. It's not rude. It's just to say this has been used. So you put it back, on the side of your setup, and just rise slowly and get away from the table where your host will be busy cleaning up. That's actually funny because in a home setting, sometimes people divide themselves and some want to remain at the dining table making conversation with a particular friend, and you don't, move in order to of how the host has organized the dinner. It's a bit inconsiderate, and people should rise at the same time and move to a different section so that your host will be left cleaning or has somebody who will clean after, and they're directing you on what to do on a different section of the house or the catering premises. Okay, so thank you so much. This has been fun to do. I hope you like this kind of thing. You can make it as simple as you want or as complicated as I don't think I'll ever be, as more complicated, because it's just different things you can change, but there are, hosts with more than most, and that's okay. So I'll see you on the next one. Bye bye.